Like, comment, subscribe, and let's do this.
Family Guy predicted Hollywood's most prolific predators, including this chilling joke about Brett Ratner. In their parody of the film Taken, Family Guy shows a version of the auction scene where Stewie infiltrates it and pretends to be one of the trafficked girls. It all just seems pretty standard until you notice the throwaway line they drop in halfway through the skit.
I have 75,000. Thank you, Brett Ratner.
It's almost a connecting joke really, and not the full punchline. The episode aired in 2012, a long time before any of Ratner's shame became public. Name-dropping Brett Ratner had a lot of dangerous legal implications of course, but they did it anyway. Eventually Ratner was caught up in the Me Too allegations when a wave of assault allegations came out against him. The director of the Rush Hour films, among other Hollywood blockbusters, never truly recovered his reputation, and it got even worse later on when the Epstein files were released, and they showed that Ratner had a long and friendly relationship with Epstein. They were even pictured together. In this one we can see them both with two women in their arms. As like most of the Family Guy jokes, the jab of Ratner was so insane that it just seemed completely ridiculous. But if they actually released the
But it's not ridiculous though, right? Somebody must have known, like, somebody knew it. They just knew it, bro. Somebody had that information and put it in the show. You cannot tell me that they didn't know this. You don't just randomly do that. So someone had that information and put it in there. This is insane though. I wonder if he sued. But if you were to sue, then you'd have to come up with proof that you're not doing that. So I'm going to guess he did not sue.
with two women in their arms.
So
As like
when they
most
don't
of the
sue,
Family Guy
just know
jokes,
it.
the jab of Ratner was so insane that it just seemed completely ridiculous. But if they actually released the real Epstein files and Ratner is proven to be a co-conspirator, it does make you wonder if their joke is just absurd or actually based in reality.
It's
But while
based
Family
in
Guy
reality.
never really made jokes predicting Epstein's downfall before 2019, there are some eerie jokes about his other possible associates. The most telling is their 2009 episode Halloween on Spooner Street, which shows Bill Clinton playing
2009.
spin the bottle with a group of children.
All right, let's go make some white water.
Their line of "let's go make some white water" refers to the name for Bill's numerous controversies and scandals during his time in office. Whether the writers had something more specific in mind or not, it fits the pattern perfectly. Another case where the joke aged in a direction nobody expected. However, a much more concrete link can be made to Bryan Singer. Hollywood has no shortage of creeps, and it's
Bro.
insane how many of them are exposed by Family Guy.
There are a lot of predators in Hollywood. Why is that? And how long has this Epstein thing been going on? How many years before everybody found out? Was it still happening in the 90s, the 80s? If somebody knows that, please put that in the comments. Holy crap.
Aged in a direction nobody expected. However, a much more concrete link can be made to Bryan Singer. Hollywood has no shortage of creeps, and it's
Yeah.
insane how many of them are exposed by Family Guy years before the full truth came out. In the episode Peanut Butter Kid from season 14, Stewie is selected as the new face of a peanut butter brand and finds fame as a child star. As Hollywood insiders, the Family Guy writers would have known how dangerous this is for young people, and they made sure to include a warning within the episode. Bryan often stands in as a kind of version of the writer's voice, as though Seth is talking through the show, although it's obviously still self-deprecating. But keeping this in mind, here he tells Stewie this: "There are tons of actors like this. They started out like you, but eventually they were destroyed by their parents' greed, drugs, or perverted Hollywood directors." Stewie then responds, "Oh, like Bryan Singer?" At the time, Singer was still a respected name. He had directed the X-Men films as well as a load of other blockbusters. The studios would protect him to an extent. It's such an
Damn.
on-the-nose pointed joke that could only be in there if there was some truth or at least a
Yeah,
commonly
that's
mentioned
what
rumor
I'm
to
saying,
attribute
bro.
to it. But at the time, people didn't care. Again, they only noticed it later on when the allegations were openly made. The Family Guy writers must have been so freaked out seeing that Singer could just openly exist in Hollywood, despite what they had known about him for years. It wasn't
Yeah.
until 2017 that Singer was brought down by fresh lawsuits and news stories surrounding his alleged activities with underage boys. In season 19,
Bro, I'm sorry for pausing a lot, but this is what I'm saying. these guys who are making Family Guy, they have insider information. So if you see them making a joke and it's like too specific of a joke and it hasn't come out yet that somebody's doing that, but the joke is too specific to just be a joke, like, why are you name dropping this person? Just know that person is most probably doing what they're saying he or she is doing. Because you're not just going to make that joke. For a joke to be funny, it has to have some context behind it. You don't just say, oh, so and so, and then you're like, oh, like so and so. It wouldn't make sense unless that person did whatever is in the joke. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Which aired after the dust had settled, the Family Guy writers took another jab at both Singer and Hollywood's culture of silence.
Excuse me, how old are you?
Not of legal age anywhere in the world.
Have fun, tell whoever you want. Weirdly, no one cares about this.
And proof that the Family Guy writers really knew the dirty secrets going on
Yep.
behind Hollywood. As Family Guy's done over 500 episodes, and they've never been shy about exposing Hollywood's biggest celebrities, including even Matt Damon. In their 2018 episode HTTP
Damon.
Pete, Seth MacFarlane and the writers added a cutaway gag incorporating lots of Hollywood's most infamous predators. In a classic bit of shock humor, Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, and Woody Allen are shown as the Marvel's The Offenders. But then Family Guy goes somewhere that people weren't expecting, ending the gag with this line.
Is Matt Damon coming?
No, but he knows about all of us. He's very aware of what's going on here, you see.
Matt Damon has never been accused of misconduct, so what's the context here? Well, in the fallout of the Me Too movement and the allegations about Weinstein, lots of people were wondering just how Hollywood could have kept such an open secret for so long. Many of Hollywood's stars took to the networks to clear their names, but often they just ended up creating more headlines. Matt Damon's interview from the time was just one example. Trying to distance himself from Weinstein and his crimes, he said this to ABC.
And I knew he was a womanizer, you know, I wouldn't want to be married to the guy, but like, I'm not, you know.
Matt Damon had already admitted to knowing something was up, and now people were suspicious that he knew much more than he was letting on. One comment from the time reads, "The acting skills in this video is better than their whole careers is." Another states the obvious even more plainly. They knew, they all knew.
Everybody
Seth
knows,
MacFarlane
I'm telling
and Family
you.
Guy weren't blind either, and they weren't afraid to call out Matt Damon. This isn't unearned at all either. Seth MacFarlane himself has never been afraid to call out abuses of power despite the risks to his career. As we'll find out, they've often been years or even decades ahead, exposing celebrities in ways people only noticed after the truth came out. Family Guy has been calling out Hollywood's creepiest celebrities.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the only reason people don't speak out or anything, it's because they don't want to lose their careers. That's all it is. But I'm sure everybody knows, bro. Everybody knows. If you're working with people, for sure you hear things about them. You hear that, so and so does this, so and so does this. Like, if they're doing that, for sure you're going to hear about it. And the only reason people don't speak about it is because they don't want to lose their hard-earned careers. I'm sure these people are in positions of power where you can just lose your position or your career just like that. But the right thing would be to speak out, bro.
Years before anyone ever believed them. In 2013, in front of the entire world, Seth MacFarlane stood at the Oscars podium and made one joke that nobody understood at the time. It was played completely deadpan, no smile, no wink. He just said it and moved on.
The 2012 nominees for Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role are Sally Field in Lincoln, Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables, Jackie Weaver in Silver Linings Playbook, Helen Hunt in The Sessions, and Amy Adams in The Master. Congratulations, you five ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
4 years later, when
Whoa.
Harvey Weinstein was exposed as one of the most prolific predators in Hollywood history, people went back and found this clip, and they had one question. How did the creator of a seemingly stupid cartoon know what the A-list stars, the executives, and the journalists who covered Hollywood every day all claimed they had absolutely no idea about? You see, Seth never made that Weinstein joke by accident. When the allegations broke, he explained in a now deleted tweet, "In 2013, my friend and colleague Jessica Barth, with whom I worked on the TED films, confided in me regarding her encounter with Harvey Weinstein and his attempted advances. It was with this account in mind that when I hosted the Oscars in 2013, I couldn't resist the opportunity to take a hard swing in his direction. Make no mistake, this came from a place of loathing and anger." When that seemingly wasn't good enough for the media, Jessica Barth came out in Seth's defense, saying that he respected her wishes. It shows that while Seth might make crude jokes, when things get real, he has a good heart. But while the rest of Hollywood was trying to wash their hands and distance themselves from the cover-up, Seth never had to. His hands were already clean. And it makes it that much more compelling when Family Guy exposes
You know what's crazy? When he made that joke, I'm sure 50 to 70% of the audience, they probably knew what he meant. Anyone who's ever worked with the guy or knows the guy probably knows what that joke meant. And probably when he said that joke, like, their hearts just sank because they knew. They knew what he was talking about. Like, it wasn't just a joke.
predatory celebrities, especially when the truth comes out about them years later. For example, Family Guy knew the real truth about Ellen years before anyone else, as we can see from this episode in season 9, which aired back in late 2010.
So you want to hear about my movie?
I had a great
weekend
this
this
weekend.
shooting in
I danced
Louisiana.
all over
And, you know,
my
it's a
house.
thriller,
I
but
try to
it's
dance
really
in every
a love
room at least once a
story,
week.
too.
I also listen to jazz while I vacuum, which is cool.
Despite her reputation at the time for being the kindest person on TV, she was not saved from Family Guy, as they clearly saw there was a monster beneath this nice facade. An opinion that would later be proved correct years later when allegations surfaced about her true conduct, when her show's staff described her as acting superior, not even looking people in the eye below her, and often abusing them for perceived mistakes. Today we all know Ellen as a monster. We even made an entire video about this a year ago. And Family Guy made sure to capitalize on this later on, getting at least a little bit of payback for all the people she mistreated.
So please, give today, because no one should have to spend Thanksgiving watching a millionaire try on sweaters.
They even made their own parody of her to drill it in. Lots of people could have made jokes like this after the fact, but it was only Family Guy that made them years before as well, to such a wide audience with such strong conviction. This Helen disingenuous bit is almost hidden in the background compared to other Family Guy jokes. It's really a hilarious summation of everything that was wrong with Ellen, from her falseness to the...
But I was wondering, like, what happened to Ellen? Because it just disappeared. It was here one time, the show was there one time, and then just disappeared. So I never really knew what happened. So this gives context to the disappearance. That's crazy though.
Charity and
I never knew she was like
her
that.
own fame. Maybe this one time is just a coincidence. After all, Family Guy makes dozens of jokes every episode, and they've released hundreds of episodes. Even a stop clock is right twice a day. But as you look deeper, too many examples come up to believe this is all just a coincidence. Like this joke they made about Kevin Spacey.
$10.
$5.
$8 and I'll do it.
Fine.
Help! I've escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement! Help me!
This came from one of the earliest seasons of the show, and it aired in 2005, over a decade before the allegations about Spacey's misconduct emerged. They could have used anyone for the joke, real or fictional. Of course, they could have easily just used Herbert, which while fitting might have taken a bit of the sting out of the joke, so instead they didn't. And it's why when Seth was asked about the joke years later, he said he didn't remember who pitched the joke, and that other writers in the room explained the rumors to him. A producer for the show confirmed this, saying that a story involving Spacey and a visit to a London park late at night had prompted the idea. It seemed like too telling of a detail to be easily explained away. And while Spacey was never actually found guilty in a criminal trial, he has made settlements in civil litigation against him, and his name and reputation will never truly recover. And even just the creepy YouTube videos he released during the trials really made people wonder what was going on behind that guy's mind.
But you wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you? You wouldn't rush to judgments without facts, would you? Did you?
This is probably
What the
how lots of
hell?
Family Guy's prophetic jokes actually came true.
What the hell, bro? That video, I don't know, man. What was he thinking when he released that? It's like he's trying to coerce people into thinking he's innocent. Or you can just see the evil in his eyes. I don't know how to say it, but if you watch that video, there's just something about it. Would you?
Wouldn't rush to judgments without facts.
It comes off
would
as
you?
manipulative.
Did you?
This is probably how lots of Family Guy's prophetic jokes actually came true. They were working off of rumours, bits of information available to them as Hollywood insiders. And while they were probably never close enough to get the full story, they could still poke fun at the bits that did leak out. As you can't do things like this lightly. Even when the laws are clear, proving your innocence can still cost tons of money. But because the rumour was out there and known, it wasn't seen as a legal risk, and Spacey, of course, never challenged it. The Family Guy's co-showrunner actually explained this in more detail. The episodes are vetted by the legal standards department, and either there has to be some basis for a joke, or it has to be so insane and unbelievable that no one would take it seriously. And honestly, in some of these instances, both were true. But people often criticize the show just for being crude, popcorn TV that always takes the low-hanging fruit and never does anything to challenge the audience. It just seemingly relies on gross out and shock humor. But the flip side of this is also the reason it's so popular and that it's thrived online today. Family Guy's jokes usually stand up by themselves, and it makes them perfect for the online world and short form content.
Yeah.
And despite how lazy people say the structuring is and how bad the show's gotten in recent years, it's really hard to think of any other show that can do the same thing they can. It's because Family Guy's jokes often just seem simple, but they're also authentic. They just point towards the elephant in the room, the thing that nobody wants to acknowledge, but that everyone already knows about.
He's
the show's
right about
sarcastic,
that.
cutting, and mean-spirited jokes are often things we've all thought to ourselves. And it's this willingness to call them out and make fun of the absurdity and crude parts of life that gave Family Guy its popularity in the first place. And it's why Family Guy has the confidence to call out all of these creepy celebrities, whether or not it was socially acceptable to do at the time. You know, today people lament modern Family Guy's excessive padding, its strange character choices, and the feeling that the soul left the show, as Seth himself stopped putting loads of time into it years ago, focusing nearly all of his energy on other projects instead. But just like modern Simpsons, Family Guy does occasionally have a few good episodes, and often some really good jokes inside of it. When it goes back to its roots and confronts modern reality, that's when people gain enjoyment from it. And this season 23 joke about AI went viral for this exact reason. It's like a last grasp. The clip still has the new Disney Family Guy's weird animation, which ironically looks like it was upscaled by AI. Peter also sounds sort of strange, but the meta joke it makes about AI was enough to carry it to millions of views. But the tragic truth is we may never get more real warnings from Family Guy anymore. When Disney bought Fox in 2019, they also got control over Family Guy, and their tenure has seen some of the show's worst ratings yet. Just like how Disney ruined Marvel.
I wonder if these companies in Hollywood, if they buy these shows and end up deleting some episodes they don't like shows, like deleting episodes from before they owned it, or is that not allowed? If that happens, somebody put that in the comments. But that's real though. I wonder if they do buy the shows that they don't like sometimes, just so that they can control like what they say in those shows or what gets put out, in fear of like getting exposed.
Star Wars, they're now doing this to Family Guy. And the show had exposed predators and all these creepy celebrities for decades without running into any real legal trouble. But once Disney got a hold of it, the legal issue suddenly became an excuse to censor these kinds of jokes. Rich Chappelle, that showrunner we mentioned before, has publicly acknowledged this despite the backlash.
That just gave me my answer. I just knew it. Why would you buy it? What reason do you have for buying it? Unless it's for censoring whatever that show has going on and limit what gets put out and all that. That's why people are saying like the show has gone downhill in recent years. That's probably why it has. Man,
he must have gotten from his comments. In 2022, he said that Disney owns so many properties that I will find myself making legal arguments that I know are winners about parody, and why we can get away with certain things. And then the question becomes, well, that may be, Rich, but Marvel doesn't want to see its characters portrayed in this light. So suddenly, he's got to worry about stepping on toes and keeping Disney's armies of lawyers extra happy. Along with the simple effects of time, it's something that killed the show, but they have subtly pushed it in exactly the wrong direction for Family Guy to be relevant again, completely watering down the truth that was once hidden within these episodes. But let's just think about what all of this means for a second. Spacey, Weinstein, Singer, Ratner, all of these creepy celebrities that were allowed to just have free reign creating our culture and shaping our country's narratives, the people who were protected by journalists, studios, agents, all the A-list actors turning a blind eye. None of these people ever said a word. The only people who told the truth were cartoon writers, and the only reason they could tell it was because they buried it inside of a joke. Because in Hollywood, the one thing more protected than a predator is a punchline. And this is why Disney's just killing the show, as the lawyers are too worried about jokes that tell the truth. But eventually a show will come along that can actually speak to power once again and expose these predators for what they really are.
Man, but then when that show comes along, I'm sure somebody's going to buy it, and then the cycle is just going to continue. The same thing is going to happen to that show. That's what always happens. The show starts off on a high, and soon as they see it like exposing people, putting out the truth of what's like happening. That's if the creators of the show are like insiders inside Hollywood and they know what's going on. Trust and believe. Some major company is going to like buy that show for enormous amounts of money. If not buying that show, they're going to buy the company that airs that show just to silence that show. You know what it reminds me of? Like some teams, let's say a player is in another team where like they're killing it, man. Your team plays that team and that player like is always killing your team. Like they're the only thing standing between you and, let's say, a major league like trophy. Your team then buys that player and benches them and never plays them. That's what basically these companies are doing. But hey man, this was insane. This was a very insane video. I didn't know about Ellen. Like, I didn't know she was moving like that, or even that she was cancelled. I just saw her like here one day and gone the next. It's insane how Hollywood has a lot of predators and nobody just says anything about it in fear of like losing their careers and all that. But hey man, if you want me to react to more Family Guy compilations or anything about Family Guy to this sort, or anything related to this and his Family Guy, put the links in the comments and I'll get to those videos and react to them. And on that note, thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one.